that you read the title right. So I am making a bet with our viewers that I believe Bitcoin should be able to hit 50K by January 10th. I don't want to make it sound like a guarantee, but I think I want to say at least around 50% chance that this can be done in the next 40 days or so. And I'll explain why in today's video. Now, before we get started, want to break down this entire bet. So really, I just want to, also do a fun giveaway by the end of the year, and also have to, just to give you guys kind of my perspective on the Bitcoin price action going forward, and how and why I think this is really the time to pay attention and stay long in the market after such a long bear market. So that's why I'm doing this giveaway, right? So treat it as a giveaway, treat it as a bet, whatever. But I think regardless, December will be a good month for Bitcoin. Now, okay, a couple rules for this giveaway. Number one is that I'm betting that Bitcoin can hit 50K by January 10th. And in order to, you guys' bet on your side is just, spread this video, like the video, and only one other requirement is that we want this video to hit 5,000 likes. So as long as this video gets 5,000 likes, which is like pretty good on our channel, then I will put up my side of the bet. And if Bitcoin doesn't hit 50K by January 10th, then I will go live with a dedicated stream, and we will do a fair draw on the live stream with our live viewers on that day, and we'll give away the 0.1 BTC. Okay, so that's the fun part of today's intro. Now let me get into the analysis. What do I see on Bitcoins right now? What do I see in the short-term price action of this breakout? And why do I think December will be a good month? Okay, so before we get started, if you guys are new here to the channel, welcome. My name is Dennis. I'm a crypto angel investor for the past 5 years, and I have invested in over 100 crypto companies. On this channel, I share my views on market trends and investing strategy to build wealth in crypto. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down in the chat. I see a lot of funny scenarios as well. Yeah, if it hits 49,900, still I'll put up my side of the bet as well. I've done this before on TikTok in 2020. It was a really fun bet. I lost by about $100 for Ethereum. It was a close call. Anyways, so let's do it. So here's what I'm seeing on today's episode. I'm just gonna clean up here. So there's really a couple things that are actually significant for next month. The number one thing by far is that the Bitcoin ETF, I believe, has a 95% chance that has been confirmed it will launch before January 10th. So for the whole background of this, you guys should watch my last live stream on the Bitcoin ETF, which was 3 weeks ago. So on this live stream, I covered my whole percentage estimate based on the research of Bloomberg analysts and how they're putting together all the SEC deadlines and the SEC's actions. So TLDR from that video is that based on all of the current Bitcoin ETF filings, because all of them you see here have a bunch of date misalignment on their deadline, so the SEC is most likely going to want to approve all of the Bitcoin ETFs together in order to not make any kingmakers, in order to for it to be a fair launch where everyone can start their markets together. Because they have done this before with the Bitcoin futures ETF, and it turned out not so well for the market. So this is the basis of the Bitcoin ETF approval date and date window that Bloomberg analysts have been using to make these estimates. And last time around, right, the window of deadline where the misaligned deadline dates can all still be approved within the same date window was November 20th, between like November 17th to November 21st or so. So that was the time. Now that time has passed, and more recently, so a couple of days ago, I want to draw you guys attention to this. So I covered this in our Discord yesterday. So 2 days ago, the SEC made a very important Bitcoin ETF timeline hint, so to speak. So essentially, the SEC just made an early delay decision on Franklin Templeton's Bitcoin ETF. So when you look at the list here, that's this one right here. So you see Franklin Templeton Bitcoin ETF. And this was very significant because it was an early delay. So you see how they had the second deadline until January 1st, but they chose to give them a very early delay even before December. Now, they haven't done this before. Usually they wait till the actual deadline finishes. So why did they do that this time? The most likely scenario is that the SEC wanted Franklin Templeton, the financial institution, to go back to their drawing board and file for a S1 update as well as some other amendments to their application. This way, by delaying them early, it resets their application deadline window to 35 days away, which puts their next deadline at January 2nd, 2024. Right? So then shortly after that, they also did the same thing for the Hashdex Bitcoin ETF. I believe this was done today. And this also reset their deadline, and their deadline period is now also January 2nd. So if you want to see this, where's the thing here? So the number one source you should follow for this is Jeff Seyfarth, the Bloomberg analyst for ETFs specifically. And when you look at their latest coverage today, so here it is. The window of opportunity after these new delays is now January 5th to January 10th, where essentially all of these current applications have finally lined up with their next deadlines being between January 2nd to January 10th. And that gives essentially the first week of January as the only window left to approve every single Bitcoin ETF application together, right? And this is important to note because it's the only time left. If they don't approve everyone before January 10th, what happens? Well, you see ARK21 shares Bitcoin ETF, because they filed much earlier, their final deadline is actually on January 10th, which means if they don't approve everyone before January 10th, they will have to deny ARK21 shares Bitcoin ETF, but then most likely have to approve BlackRock's ETF, right? We know this is going through. So that means if they don't approve everyone before January 10th, instead goes for March, then it will be a very weird scenario where the same applications filed, back and forth between ARK21 shares and BlackRock, they reject one guy but approve the other. This is a very unlikely scenario, very, very unlikely, based on how many times ARK21 shares have gone back and forth with the SEC. So this is why not only is the window of approval very important, now being first week of January before January 10th, and most likely everyone will need to come before January 10th. So this is why I have a ton of confidence now, right, with all the signs and all the weird lineups that the SEC is doing in order to make sure that, you see here, that in order to make sure every single application's rebuttal period ends in that first week of January so that they can all be open to be approved. So this is the most logical explanation for why the SEC is doing this. And this is why, I'm like 95% sure that we will get the Bitcoin ETF approval before January 10th and within that week. So this is by far the most important thing that makes me bullish for December. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, really, it's all about price action, right? So let's look at price really quick. So I have been tweeting about and covering the price action for the past 3 weeks. And long story short, we finally broke out of this choppy sideways range. So I covered this in our Discord as well, which you should join with the link in the description. Essentially, the past... where is it? The past 3 weeks or so, right? We have been in this sideways range between, let's say, 35.5K and 38K for Bitcoin. And it has been a very tough time for most traders because we are, myself, I'm a trend trader, so I like to bet on the upside and follow the trend. But when Bitcoin is doing these, 5% up and then 5% down on the day after, and then do a 5% up again, these types of moves are really choppy and really hard to tell. But finally, in the past week, Bitcoin finally broke above 38,000. And I kept, reassuring our Discord as well that still holding my position. We just need to see one last retest into this range and see a strong bounce. And you see this bounce came in. And of course, this morning, we have even one last bounce, right? Before finally, I would say that the breakout is for sure confirmed now. So how do you tell when Bitcoin is breaking out of a sideways price range and starting a new uptrend? So very simple. You do it by using higher highs and higher lows, right? So I marked them here on the chart. HH stands for higher high. HL stands for higher low. And you see in this period, in the first week of November and last week of October, it was very clear, right? Because the higher highs and higher lows were much further from each other. But then once we got into second week of November, you see the Bitcoin kind of stopped making higher highs, right? It made a high here, slightly higher high, but then it made another lower high and then slightly higher high, right? But the good news for that period is that the lows were very clear. So every time Bitcoin dropped in a correction, the lows that it bounced from became higher and higher. And you see this time, last time around, yesterday as well, this last low was much higher than the previous higher low, right? So this is a clear uptrend period. In order to see a clear uptrend, you need to see consistent higher highs and higher lows. And this is what we're seeing now, very clear uptrend starting. One last thing on the price action that gave me quite a bit of confidence in the past week to continue holding in this last bit of chop right here is because the open interest data on Bitcoin had been showing that this rally was not driven by excessive longing. In fact, it's actually spot buying. People actually picking up Bitcoin and buying real Bitcoin instead of just pure speculation. So I noted about this in our Discord as well. Basically, with this chart here, right on the top here, you have. Can I zoom into this? No. On the top chart here, this is the price chart of Bitcoin. And then on the bottom here, this is the open interest, or in other words, how many open contracts there are in the futures market, in the leverage trading market. So you see there's actually a very clear divergence here on this slow move up for the past 3 weeks. You see every time Bitcoin had one of these drops, where it made a low, the open interest peaked up, right? So it peaked at right around this 180,000, I believe that's Bitcoin contracts level. And what this means is that every time Bitcoin dropped, people were shorting, right? But they kept trying to short, but once the short positions came to the same level, right? Price didn't drop lower. In fact, price continued to make higher lows. What this means is that the shorts are very aggressive in the leverage trading market and speculators are heavily shorting. But price had a hard time breaking new lows. So as time went on and on again, you see this open interest level indicated that people were still very aggressively shorting on all of these drops, but price just failed to drop, right? Every time price made higher lows, and the shorts were not in profit. And this gave me a lot of confidence because eventually, when you look at today's chart, you see this open interest level finally broke out, by which case it means that now the shorts are turning into longs and the aggressive shorters in the leverage market are finally giving up. And I think very soon we should be able to see a short squeeze coming in, right? So similar to one of these previous OI drops, sharp OI drops you see here, here, and here, where price made a slow grind, right? But then quickly wicked up as OI or open interest made a sharp drop. This was clearly a mass short squeeze, right? So when short positions were forced to be closed, this is why the open interest dropped, because the positions were forced to be closed altogether and price increased. Again, similarly here, right? Price slow grind, but then finally rose very quickly as OI dropped. This was another short squeeze. Here you see very similar scenario again with OI dropping. And now you see we are again seeing quite high OIs while price is just about to pop above these final levels right around 38,000. So I think a short squeeze is coming, is what I'm saying. Okay. Now, very quickly, we want to look at the liquidation heat map as well. Even on this recent price move today, where Bitcoin retested around 38,000 here, where Bitcoin retested around 38,200, but then bounced back above. You see, people were still shorting, right? Somehow, people thought this is a good idea to short, fade this rally, and you see, we have very tight liquidation right at 39,000. $458 million of positions to be liquidated at 39,000. That's kind of ridiculous. Like, I have no idea why people would be fading this rally so hard, but the open interest tells me that they are most likely wrong. Okay, and one last thing, just to give you guys a perspective. You see how this bottom chart here, this is the premium of between the futures price and the spot price, right? So because we currently have a negative premium, as you can see, it's red here. This means the futures market for Bitcoin is actually trading, perpetual futures market is trading at a lower price than the spot market. This also indicates that people are aggressively shorting in the leverage trades, while this price move up has been driven by real spot buying, people accumulating Bitcoin. So this is another good sign that tells me I think the shorts will be blown out quite soon. Okay, that's on that. Now, am I saying, boom, we're going to wick to 50K right away? No, nobody can predict that, right? But all in all, I think this rally has been very healthy, driven by spot buying, and I would, if you are considering shorting here, I would really, really reconsider and figure out what you're doing. Okay, so that's on short-term price. Now, where are the next price levels to watch after this potential run up this month, right? So let me give you guys a couple more perspective here. So the clearest level, in order to see on the chart, we can go back to the historical price action of Bitcoin, which here, this one. And you see how the biggest price range in the last bull market was essentially here, right? So right here in this range between for the entire month of January 2021, right? Bitcoin was bouncing in this range, consolidating between 30K and 39K. And then again, in summer of 2021, you guys remember this was a period where a lot of people got shaken out and Bitcoin was, again, bouncing between 30,000 and 39,000. And then again here, right, this level was tested yet again, and quite a bit of bounce and consolidation here for 2 months again in 2022. So now when you compare this to the current price action of Bitcoin, if I can remove all that here, that range essentially translates to this, right? And when you overlay this with the last month of price action, you see this makes a lot of sense, right? Bitcoin, once it broke into this range, it dramatically slowed down, right? There has been just constant, buying, selling, slow grinding up. But this 39,000 level, right? If we even want to be very conservative, it's finally getting broken. And this is why I think whatever the price action we saw in the past month, it's going to become much easier as a move up, as long as the uptrend continues. So that's looking at the price action historically. Now, what is the next resistance level to watch? Again, we can go back to the historical prices here, because the only time Bitcoin has traded above this like $39,000, $40,000 level is dating back to the last bull market. So we really want to focus on the price action of this range, right? So let's put this range on the chart, right? And then one very useful indicator to watch for this is the VPVR indicator. So this is what I have on the blue and yellow bars right here. So how this indicator works, it's called visible range price action, or visible range volume profile. Yeah, visible range volume profile. So what this indicator does is that it takes all of these prices and all of these candles of trades, and it calculates at each price level what the previous trading volume there was in this total period, right? So this means the longer that price consolidated and traded within the range, the higher this VPVR indicator will be in the horizontal direction. So this effectively maps out all of the consolidation ranges we had throughout this last bull run, right? And this is very useful because, well, right away, this confirms our resistance, like our consolidation range between 30K and 40K, because you see there was so much trading volume by far in this range, which means price had a lot of difficulty getting above this level. But once it did, notice how the VPVR is much lower in this price range, between $40,000 until around $46,000. This means the resistance between 40 and 46,000 is going to be much lower than what we had in the past month of price action. Again, this confirms that once this breakout confirms, most likely we are able to see 46,000 before the next significant resistance range comes into play. Then there is this next spike on the VPVR. This clearly shows what the next resistance range will be, which kind of starts right at 46,000 and then moving up until around, let's say, 50K. This is the next really resistance range to watch, right? And if we map that with a horizontal level, you see that makes sense, right? So this range has been tested February 2021, April 2021, August 2021, December, and then a couple times here as resistance, and then one more time here as resistance, right? So this range makes sense as the next price area where Bitcoin will have a harder time to break above. So this is kind of where I place my bets. And I didn't want to say, okay, like Bitcoin can just hit 45K by the end of the year, because looking at the price ranges here, well, I think 45K is honestly kind of conservative, judging by how little price action and how little resistance there is above 40K, between 40 and 45K. So I think 45K, I am quite confident we can get there, but 50K, that's going to require a bit more energy, a bit more momentum, a bit more push. And that's why I have placed my bets there. I don't think it's a guaranteed win for me, and that's why I think this is interesting. Okay, so TLDR is that once 40K gets broken, really not much resistance until around 46K, and then between 46 to 50K, quite a bit of resistance again. So that is where Bitcoin price could slow down again. That's just what I'm seeing from price action. Okay. And just the last little bit of Hopium to give you guys. Now, this last one is going to be pure Hopium, right? But for the sake of convincing everyone that based on the fundamentals of Bitcoin going into next year, right? Since we know the Bitcoin ETF is coming very soon, we know Bitcoin halving is coming in April. We know that the US elections are happening. The campaigns are starting in January. We know that the Fed's policy is going to turn around dramatically next year. So all the signs are pointing to a good year ahead, which means it's a good time to stay positive. And that's why I want to give you guys also this fractal that doesn't really mean much, to be honest, but it's fun to look at. So this fractal right here is the basically exact copy of the candle price action from the last bull run, right? From 2020. You see, this is exactly right here. So notice how in the summer of 2020, going into the end of 2020, we had a very similar price action where Bitcoin made very long summer consolidation, right? And then first peak and then very sharp drop, right? This was kind of I don't remember exactly which event this was. I believe this was like BitMEX going down or something. Very similar timing to the Binance FUD as well. And then once BitMEX situation got resolved, price really started to shoot up going into the end of the year. And you see, this was November, this was December, right? After the last week of November consolidation. So when you take this fractal and you map it over today's price action, right here, and you map it over kind of what the FUD events were, which was the this time around it was Binance, right? So right around here, this time in the summer was when BitMEX went down, Binance went down, and right around this period was when the situation got resolved. And also something interesting to note is that price had a slow grind, right? Slow grind before finally shooting through in December. Now, obviously, you can look at this fractal however you want. You can adjust it way high, way low, right? So this really doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean that, you can use this as any price, prediction, price target, whatever. But nonetheless, because we're kind of in the same part of the market where we're pre-bull market year, I think this is kind of telling, to be honest. So last bit of Hopium for you guys there. Okay, so that's on Bitcoin. Have I covered everything? Cover OI, resistance, breakout. Yes, we covered everything. Okay, so in summary, I think the two most important takeaways from today is that number one, factually speaking, I really think the Bitcoin ETF will be approved before January 10th by a 95% chance. And we will see a whole batch of them launched altogether. So take that in your mind and just entertain this scenario, right? Let's say we are this month, as this scenario becomes more and more widespread, people understand it, and people start to price in that, Bitcoin ETF is really coming just this month or in 30 days. What's a good price target for me? So in that case, I really don't think 50K is out of the question, right? So this is number one. Number two, price breakout, very clear. Once we get above 39, 40K, the VPVR on price action shows us that the next significant resistance range is between 46,000 and 50,000. So that's the range I'm watching, right, by the end of the year, going to January. And number three, I think also factual, is that this rally has not been driven by leverage. It has actually been real spot buying, accumulation of Bitcoin, which is very healthy. Meanwhile, the speculators are still heavily shorting this, and I think they will need to be washed out quite soon. Okay, so that's my stance on Bitcoin today, and adding on top as well for the fun bet. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at virtualbacon0x. I have been covering essentially this whole scenario, right, with our this exact setup 2 days ago, where we were looking at the OI and the premium and how this rally was, people were heavily shorting this and they are most likely wrong. And the fact that, you know, rising OI, rising price, really good sign. And we have been covered the liquidation levels, right? People heavily shorting 38K, 39K, and over again. Meanwhile, from our fundamental analysis, we understood that the Bitcoin ETF news is really bullish and it will most likely be confirmed just under 40 days. So all that alpha I dropped on my Twitter, as well as much more in depth in our Discord as well. So make sure you join both. Join our Discord with the link in the description, discord.gg/virtualbacon. That's where we can have the discussion today. And hopefully I don't lose my bet. But even if I lose my bet, you know, treat it as a New Year gift for you guys. But all in all, the message I want to take away is that I'm not saying Bitcoin is guaranteed going to 50K. I think it's probably like 50-50 chance that it can get there. That's why I think this is a fun bet. But nonetheless, I really do believe December will be a bullish month for Bitcoin. And this is the time to stay bullish. There's no reason to be turning around on the market now with all the events coming up. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next video and next live stream. Cheers. Bye-bye.